hopefully. Hopefully the dog won't bark. Are we live? Maybe. We'll see. Here we go. Okay, we're live. You see we have those little delays. Gotta love the technology. Hopefully everything works. It always has that couple seconds. Oh, we already have 10 people waiting and watching. Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
I am just, again, like, I'm trying really hard not to fangirl at you. Like, have the composure of, oh, she's a real person. Don't do that. Starstruck. It's very hard not to. I was telling her, so this is the fabulous Pintip Dunn, and I was telling her before, the very first time I got to, see who she was, she's on stage in this beautiful ball gown. She's hosting at the RWAs, and you're just so eloquent and beautiful, and all of a sudden, I gotta go read her books. So I've been reading her books, and they're fabulous, and I cannot wait to talk to you tonight. So
that's so nice. Thank you so much. I'm a fangirl now too, because I'm like,
I mean, it was one of those, you were up there, you were so eloquent, and I'm going, oh my gosh, like, I'm like, I need to go read her stuff. And then I read one of the books, and I had to go read the next one and the next one. So there was a lot of binge reading going on that.
Oh, nice. What was the first one you read?
I think I started off with your the dystopian. So I think Jessa was the second one. So it was Callie, and Jessa, then Olivia. So
you read them in order. So Forget Tomorrow, Remember Yesterday, Seize Today. And those are my first published books. So yay, you did it in the right order.
I was going to say, I was like, I kind of lucked out because I'm one of those people where I sometimes don't want to read the series unless it's completed because I know I'm going to want to keep binging. And I'm like, you left me on a cliffhanger. How can you do this to my heart? But luckily, you also kind of tied them all up with the happily ever afters because, again, romance. So even if I did have to wait, I would have been content. So, either way, I would have been good. See, more reason.
Because Forget Tomorrow was published in 2015. And it's funny that you bring that up because you write other books and you kind of forget about the earlier ones. But last night I saw my son reading the book, and I have been begging him and my daughter, who are they're 13 and 11, begging them for years to read it, like years. And they were always like, no, I'm not ready. I don't want to. And like, they're both bookworms. Like, they both love books. And my daughter's like, I really like dystopians with romances. And I was like, well, what do you think mommy writes? And she's like, no, give me a suggestion for another one. I'm like, okay, whenever you're ready. And my son loves fantasy. And I'm like, you guys should give this book a try. But he was reading it last night, and I was like so excited to see him on the couch. And so I go and I sit next to him. And then after a while, he's on page 44, because I looked. He's like, did you write this? And then he closes the book and looks at the cover as if to like make sure my name was on it. And he's like, I mean, I know you said you wrote it, but it's just so good. And I was like, that was one of my very favorite moments of my writing career, I think. And it just happened last night. So it's pretty cool.
Hi, Pintip, is that it? You want to say hello? Yeah. Barking. He's okay. I'm pretty sure this toy is as big as him.
Just the same too.
I know, right? They match.
They totally do.
That is so cute, though, that you get to share your books with your kids. Again, one of the benefits of having young adult literature is that.
And I didn't think I would be able to because they were so resistant for so long. But
that is so cute. So you wanted them to read. You wanted them to read your books. I would have been like, oh, are they going to judge mom? Are they going to, what's going on? But that's so cute that you wanted them to experience.
I definitely did. Like, maybe not in the beginning, but just because, I see them reading all the books that are like exactly my genre. And I'm like, I think you would like these. Like, your friends read my books. Your friends love my books. You should give it a try. And my daughter in particular is very mortified at the thought of her mom writing kissing scenes. So.
Well, again, it's a good thing you're writing young adult literature because it's kind of different.
Exactly. She told me that I was never, ever allowed to write an adult romance with sex scenes. And I'm like, you know what? We will see about that, honey, because this is my career and it's really, not that far, not such a distinct impossibility that I might do that someday. So
I like how she's laying down the law. I'm like, is it the other way around?
Yeah, exactly. But maybe she'll be older by then. I don't know if they ever get over this or not. The thought of their parents thinking.
That's adorable. Oh, I was going to say the comments have been popping up. Oh, Kayla, Mika, Lady Gizmo, Vanessa, Bree. You guys are so sweet to join us tonight. If you have questions, please comment and
ask. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm so excited.
I know. I see. That's the thing. You're so amazing. I just jump into the conversation with you, and I was like, and I have her very impressive bio, and I didn't even read it because you're just so engaging. And then the little guy is like, pay attention to me. It's like, no, I'm talking. Mom's busy. We got things going on here. So you also, I was very impressed because it was your debut and you're already on the New York Times bestselling list. That's unbelievable. So Pintip Dunn, as you can, is a New York Times bestselling author of young adult fiction, and you graduated from Harvard University, and you also received your JD at Yale Law, which is again one of those. I took the LSAT. It's not easy.
Oh, you took the LSAT. That was fun. Fun times.
That's why she went and got the law degree, and I'm in communications. Your novel Forget Tomorrow won the 2016 RITA for Best First Book, and Seize Today won the 2018 RITA for Best Young Adult Romance. And this is incredible to me. Your books have been translated into 4 languages, and they've been nominated for the following awards. For the Japanese, I don't want to mispronounce this, Sakura Medal, and Romantic Times Reviewer's Choice Award. And you also have titles Remember Yesterday, The Darkest Lie, Girl on the Verge, Star-Crossed, Malice. And now you have a new release that you also just had come out within the last couple of weeks, correct?
Yes, I do. It's called Dating Makes Perfect. Here's the cover. Isn't she so cute? I love this cover so much. Oh, and Angela was telling me that she owes us all a photo of herself posing like the cover. So, so I think she's going to be posting that sometime. So be on the lookout. I, for one, can't wait to see that pose. I think it's going to be adorable. I told her that she had the hair for it, that it's very long and she can pull it all the way over. So I'm really excited to see that. But this book means so much to me. It is an Own Voices rom-com. I've never written rom-com before, and it was so much fun to dive into this new genre. But the reason it means so much is that this is my very first book where both the hero and the heroine are Thai. So I like to put, I have diverse characters in all of my books, and I've written, Thai hero in Malice, a Thai heroine in Girl on the Verge, Thai girl in Star-Crossed. So I have done lots of Thai characters before, but never both as the 2 leads. So that was so exciting. But the book is about this girl named Winnie and her sisters, and her parents have always said, no dating in high school, like no matter what. So they've never even considered it as a possibility. But when the sisters get to college, 6 months later, their mom's like, well, why aren't you engaged yet? And they're like, hello, we just got to college. You just lifted your dating ban. This is not a switch that we can just turn on and off. And so they're like, you know what? We're not going to get married for like 20 years or maybe even 30, not until we've had lots of practice dating. And so now the mom's like, oh my gosh, maybe I've been going about this all wrong. So she decides that their youngest daughter, Winnie, must date in high school to practice so that she can get the necessary skills. But her parents will decide what the dates are, and they design them around popular classic rom-com movies. And they'll also decide who she will be fake dating. It's the son of their longtime family friends, and he just happens to be her sworn enemy. So that's what the book is about. So if you like fake dating or enemies to lovers or heartwarming family dynamics, you might enjoy the book. I loved it a lot. So
this has been on my must-read list for the longest time, and I've been waiting for my physical copy to arrive in the mail. I've been going, I understand COVID. I'm going to let it go, but mine's going to be arriving soon. Hopefully.
Yay! I'm so excited. I'm excited to hear what you think. It's quite, Angela, since you've read my other books. It's I think it's quite different. Like a lot of my other books are really about like these epic moral choices that the characters have to make. There's always romances in them because I love romance. I'm a romance girl. So there's always romance, but they're about kind of these weightier topics. And this one is just, it's very different in tone. Like it's just very light, really funny. I think it's funny. Humor is subjective. So it's always interesting to write something that's a rom-com because you don't know if other people will resonate with your humor. But I have to say, I was definitely cracking up when I was writing these scenes. So I hope other people will have that same reaction too.
That was one of my questions, or kind of my, giving you credit, because you've written across the board. You have your dystopian, then you have your sort of sci-fi with star-crossed, and then you have these, I refer to them in my own little head as darker kind of contemporaries. They're contemporaries, but definitely have a little bit of a darker, mysterious edge. And now you're doing rom-com, like you were just going through all the different subgenres of romance.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they all have in common is that they're all young adult. And, I love writing young adult because to me, they're about exploring a journey that a character goes through in order to discover who they are. And oftentimes that person is stronger and braver and more competent than they ever dreamed possible. And so I just find that journey like really inspirational for me. I think it inspires me to try and be my best self, but I really love that. And so even though they're vastly different genres, like what they have in common is that they're all about a character finding out who they are. So I think that in that sense, even though the books are different genres, you can tell that they're all written by me. And if you've read any of my books, you know that there's always a very strong emphasis on family bonds. Family is so important to me, and they're really important for my characters. And so a lot of what they do is motivated by love for some family member or another.
I was going to say that was actually one of my questions, or one of my sort of notes.
Preempting you.
No. You can totally no, because I loved the relationship between Callie and Jessa in your series Forget Tomorrow. I thought they were so great together in the first book, and then the sister gets her book as the protagonist, and is the sequel. So I noticed that in your books very, very quickly that the dynamics. I mean, even Olivia, like her mother in the third book, that's the kind of driving, relationship. And then I just got to give you so much credit because you're able to interweave family dynamics. Then you have the love element. Then you have the society. I mean, you have so many balls in the air. I'm like, how do you not drop them?
Well, it's hard. And writing a book is so hard. And like my friends and I feel like we say it every day, like, oh, wow, this is so hard. And I think it's precisely what you said. There are so many balls in the air. And all I can say there is that it's not like it springs fully formed into your mind and you just write it down and it's one draft and you're finished. So a lot of times, I have to go back and layer in like, oh, I need to layer this in, or I need to layer this in, because it is really difficult to keep everything in your mind all at once. But if you like Callie and Jessa, though, who before now was like kind of my favorite sisters in my books, in the new book, Winnie has this amazing relationship with her older twin sisters, Bunny and Ari. And I love their sisterly relationship. So if you like sisters, I'm hoping you'll enjoy that relationship as well. I don't know if you know this, but Callie and Jessa were actually based on my own relationship with my sister. So my sister is 12 years younger than myself. Oh, wow. And Jessa's 11 years younger than Callie. And my sister's name is Lana. And I always joke to her like, oh, I love this book because I get to kill you in it. Oh, for those of you who don't know the plot, in Forget Tomorrow, it's about a world where you can send memories back to your younger self. And Callie sees a vision of her future self killing her younger sister. It's really about the length that Callie will go to protect her sister. So it's not about her wanting to kill her sister at all, but just the fact that that's the most horrible thing that can happen to her. But it was really inspired by the relationship that I have, because I think when you have 12 years separating you, it's a different kind of sisterly relationship. I have this very like maternalistic love for her. And so in a way, I feel like when my own babies were born, I was kind of prepared for that because I already had that feeling with my sister, that protectiveness, you know. But yeah, and so that book's dedicated to Lana. So.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, that was something I think I noticed. I mean, I'm an only child, but I mean, I can tell when relationships are realistic or not. And I definitely felt when I was reading your books that you knew what you were talking about when it came to siblings. And so I think that also lent itself to the experience of reading them, because you're going, oh, wow, like that is something that, you know, it touches your heart.
Yeah, and like what I've been seeing a lot from reviews for Dating Makes Perfect. And, you know, with reviews, I read them at the beginning and then I stop. So I've stopped. So if anybody wants to leave a review and say something terrible, don't worry, I won't see it. But at the beginning, I like to read them just because I kind of want to know what people think. But a lot of people really mention the relationship between Winnie and her twin sisters. And what they comment on is that there's no jealousy between them. Like they're really, truly happy for each other and truly supportive. And I think often you will sort of see like a jealous sibling rivalry. And to me, it was just really important to portray a very strong relationship. And that's mostly because that's the relationship I have with my sister and my brother as well. Don't want to leave him feeling like he's left out here.
Well, I was going to say, I think that was something I appreciated, because I'm pretty sure I read your book somewhere when I was reading To All the Boys I Loved Before. And so again, in that book, you have the middle sister who wants the boyfriend of the older sister. And I just read the other one. I'm going, oh, sister relationships. Like sometimes they can be, you know, antagonistic apparently, or, you know, resentful. But I just saw we have a question from Bree, and she wanted to know what you learned from writing your first rom-com, which is a great question because obviously this is your first one. So,
well, number one, I learned that I could do it. Honestly, that was not super clear in my mind. And so I really have to give credit to my publisher and editor, Liz Peltier, because she was like completely confident. She was like, you've got this, you know, you have these romances in all of your books. It's just about having it be the whole book instead of, you know, a very strong subplot. But she was always so confident from the very beginning. And I was much more nervous, actually. Like, I've never done this before. You know, can I pull it off? So many of my stories before are about life or death and saving the entire world. And that there's just always so much at stake that I don't think I've ever, you know, and then with a rom-com, there's a lot at stake in terms of, you know, their hearts and their growth. But like, it is meant to be very lighthearted and funny. So first, I learned that I can do it. And number two is that I learned that I could also be funny. And this is a weird thing because you know how there are certain people who have these personalities where they're just so hilarious. And every time you talk to them, you're just always cracking up and they always have these witty one-liners. And like, that's not me. And so I was like, okay. And it's interesting because one of the first books that I ever wrote that never got published was a chick lit. And so that was actually very funny as well. But I haven't done a book like that in 8 years. I haven't tried to be funny in 8 years. And it actually came really naturally to me. I did not know that it would. So maybe both of those things speak to my confidence in myself as a writer. And I think that as a writer, one of the most important things to learn is to be confident, because there's so much rejection in the publishing industry. There's so much self-doubt. There's so much, you know, doubt coming in from the outside. And it's really hard to, you know, keep the confidence up so that you can keep producing and keep doing what you love to do. So I don't undervalue that at all. I think confidence is a really important thing to learn.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did find that in yourself and you did write the book. I mean, again, I'm really excited to read it. And every time I've read the book blurb a few times. Every time I, hear the little summary, I'm going, I need to read this book. And it sounds so amazing. And I mean, other people, I've seen the reviews. Again, I was brushing up for the interview. And so many people seem to be enjoying the relationship. So you gave them that enjoyment. So I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, and like that is like the best compliment you could give me as a reader, which is that, like, you know, just for a few moments, you gave me this joy. Because especially with the state of the world that we're living in, there's so much anxiety and there's so much not good things happening. And so fun fact is that I actually finished writing the book right as the quarantine started. And that was my escape. So writing the book was my joy. Like the way it was only like 24 hours. I was probably, you know, had anxiety for like 18 hours. And then the 6 hours that I was writing was the time that I feel this anxiety.
Hmm. I know romance. I've been seeing that more and more. And again, that's my dissertation is on the romance genre fandom. And I've been seeing a lot of, yeah, it is. I love to see that.
Well, I have to read that when you're finished.
I'm hoping, you know, I do the community justice, but I've been seeing that more and more with people saying, you know, reading romance has given them that escape. And, you know, people are saying, you know, online of how this has been getting them through the quarantine. So it's nice to see that from the writer perspective too, that's also a factor. See, romance writing is also an escape.
Yeah, it is. And even though I'm a writer, I'm also a very avid romance reader as well. And it's been true, like the darkest times in my life, not just in the past year, but like before, I would always turn to romance novels. And so, you know, it just gave me that few hours of escape. And like that reprieve would give me the strength and the energy to like go back to real life and keep going. And so I know what romance novels have done for me as a reader. And so to me, that's why the biggest compliment is that if someone tells me that my book has done that for them, like there's no higher compliment in my eyes.
Oh no, I was very impressed with. So again, I started with your dystopian, and I was very impressed with the world building because you wrote a dystopian around the time Hunger Games and you have Divergent, and you created your own unique world. And so I'm going, she just balanced, you have the fantasy, sci-fi, and romance. I'm going, she's going through both genres. Like you're balancing, you know, you have the romance that you have to meet with their qualifications for the genre, and then the other elements. So, and then I go back and I was looking down and I realized you've written so many different tropes and archetypes. You've had kind of the second chance, old crush come back, to love. So, I mean, does that also lend itself to your enjoyment of the writing? Because again, you're writing across, you know, different subgenres across the board. So is that also something that plays into it?
Yeah, I mean, I love tropes. Tropes are so fun. I have my own favorite. So my favorites are, this is funny. My favorite tropes are enemies to lovers, fake dating, and, you know, childhood friends to lovers. And I managed to squeeze all three of those tropes into Dating Makes Perfect.
That is amazing.
And I was like, you know, this is my first rom-com. I might as well just put all of my favorite tropes in there because this would be the kind of book that I would want to read. So it's really funny because people have been asking me that question, like, oh, so like, what are your favorite tropes? And I'm like, coincidentally, it's the ones I put in this book, or maybe not coincidentally because they're my favorites. But yeah. Love those tropes. I also love slow burn romances a lot. And so maybe this, you know, segues into us talking about YA versus adult romances because, you know, at a very surface level, all of the tropes work in both YA and adult. You know, something like enemies to lovers or friends to lovers are, you know, that holds true whether you're a teenager or an adult. But then, and then some other tropes you just kind of scale back, like, you know, fake engagement, I think easily becomes fake dating. And I know that fake dating is also a trope for adult. Let's see, what else is there? Maybe like second chance romance or one night stand. So maybe, you know, they don't have like a full-fledged, they might not have sex, but maybe they have kissed in a previous time in their life. Maybe they were at a party. And so it's like, I think it's so funny because I also read a lot of YA romances as well, in addition to adult romances. And it's just cute to see how you can have the same tropes, but then it just plays out in like slightly different ways. So I don't know.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think that's so interesting. I was trying to think of the book because you reminded me there was I really want to say it was Cassie West, but I don't think it is. She had one where the girl was at a party hosted from someone at a different school, and then the guy she met there, he transferred to her school. You're like, oh no, he's the guy I kissed at the party.
Exactly. And I was trying to think about, I guess the only ones that you would be hard to translate is Secret Baby, I think would be hard. Although there are definitely YA books where they have babies. That's certainly not off limits. And I've also seen, I can't remember who it was, but I think I've also seen one where they, you know how you babysit the little egg as like a project? I think I've seen a book like that as well.
That's amazing.
And then I think second chance romance is also difficult because, you know, they just haven't really lived long enough to have a history of a relationship that broke up and got back together. But like, there are also a lot of really great adult romances where it's a second chance romance and they flash back to the teenage years. I always find those super fun as well, to read both the teenage and the adult perspective in the same book.
I think so. That's a really good point. So I've kind of come to realize this. I have very high standards when it comes to a second chance, because I'm always going, oh, why did you break up in the first place? Like, it has to be a really good reason. And right. So unless you can really give me that reason, you know, I have those moments flashing back. I'm going, but you're so perfect together now in your teenage years. What happens?
And it's really hard because if it's a really good reason, then it's like, well, okay, then how has that reason changed? If it's not a good reason and it's just like a misunderstanding where if you could just talk to each other, you wouldn't have wasted 10 years of your life. So I think that those stories are very challenging. I mean, people do it really well, but I can see that just from a surface level, there are definitely challenges with that trope.
Oh no, I mean, that's the one where I'm going, okay, I'm reading this on my Kindle. I can't throw it against the wall. It's like, oh.
Have you ever felt the urge to throw something against the wall?
Well, there was one time where someone kissed them and, you know, right at that moment, you know, oh, they're cheating on me, and they ran away out of town and never wanted to be heard from again. And years later, I'm going, couldn't you just either trust them, confronted them, something? You know, it was very dramatic for very little payoff. No, yes. I've never wanted to throw one of your books against the wall.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yay, another milestone.
Well, I mean, I also don't write bad reviews. I don't have it in my heart to ever. If I can't give something at least 3 stars, usually 4, I don't talk about it. That's one of my own personal, you know, I'd rather talk about the books I do enjoy than focus on the ones I didn't.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I do. Because, I mean, I'm the same way, but it's different because I'm an author too, and authors can't really go around giving people less than a 5-star. So mine is great. If I can't give it a 5-star, I won't give it anything at all. Because,
same wavelength. See, I'm like, I have something in common. And it's so funny you mentioned like the baby egg, because Netflix got Sister, and I just saw the episode where one of the, like, they have the little eggs, and the guy next door, Roger, he's dressing it up, he's building a little crib, and so you were talking to my little heart over here, going, oh yeah, that would be a great story. Now I'm curious, let's go find out what book that's in, because now you got me curious.
I know. If it comes to me, I will. I'll shoot you a message and let you know if the title.
Oh yeah, because now I'm gonna be so
wild though. I haven't read it recently or anything, so it would it would be reaching back.
I was gonna say, get a scour Goodreads or find I know.
You could search for it, like baby egg teen romance, a secret baby, or something like that.
No, I was gonna say, I know Smart Bitches has one of those, like, you know, help. I don't like like it's called help a bitch out. I hate saying smart bitch. Like, I apologize. Like, that's what it's called, where you type that in and they'll tell you the book. So hopefully we can find this book, because I need the story. So I think you kind of touched on this before, but to me, when it comes to reading young adult versus adult, I think the voice is the biggest the biggest difference to me, because you have to capture the young adult voice. And so I wanted to ask how you channel your inner young adult voice when you're writing versus when you're, or going to attempt or thinking about an adult romance, because you have to capture your protagonist who's a teen. So how do you approach this?
It's funny. It's not that difficult for me. And I think that's because, well, before I wrote my first young adult, I wrote 4 books. And I was jumping from genre to genre, trying to find my voice. And it was a chick lit, like a literary family saga, a romance, an adult romance novel, which was really fun, actually. It was a My Fair Lady set in the high stakes poker world. So
did you publish this book?
No, it's not published. I know.
What?
At some point, I should go revise that thing. I mean, it was early on in my writing career, so I had a lot to learn about.
Yeah, that premise is awesome.
I still love the premise to this day. But so I've been writing all of these novels, and I just didn't nothing was exactly right. And then I read The Hunger Games, and I am not exaggerating when I say that book changed my life, because not only it's my favorite book, I think it's pure perfection craft wise. I've read it multiple times to study exactly how she does everything. But beyond that, when I finished it, I was like, okay, this is the kind of book that I want to be writing. And then I just never really looked back. And my voice, my natural writing voice, fits very well with young adult. And I don't know if that's because I still feel like a kid inside, or maybe I think it's partly also that as adults, I think we tend to forget how intelligent we were when we were teens. But my daughter is a teenager now. She's a young teen, but she continues to amaze me every day. And so I think that one of the biggest mistakes that a writer can make when they're starting to write young adult fiction is to think that they have to write down, because they don't. To me, young adult books are just so complex and so that there's so much in them, and the voice of these characters, there's a lot going on. And so it's actually, I really would love to write adult books as well someday. I haven't published any. And so I also would think that my voice would work for adult books, but I just feel like the young adult, voice is just very natural to me. Also, what I did, the first thing I did when I was I want to write young adult, the first thing I did was just read 60 books in the genre. I think if you're switching genres, you really just need to read a whole lot of books in that genre just to see what people have done, just to see kind of what the conventions are. And that's not to say that you want to copy the conventions, because the idea is you want to, be a unique voice. But at the same time, you really need to know what's out there. So, to answer your question, it's not hard for me. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing to admit, because I don't know if that's saying that my mental state is still very much a teenager. I don't know.
Great. No, I think it's better to say that you found your voice, because a lot of times people are still trying to find it, or they feel as if they should be writing something. You're writing what you want to write and what you're good at. This is why you have so many great reviews on Goodreads. I'm going through, again, I'm brushing up for the interview, and I'm going, oh, this is rated 4.2. I'm like, Goodreads, everyone's Goodreads is the place where people go to rant and rave. I'm going, she's got really high reviews over here. You got 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. So I'm thinking we just hit the nail on the head as to why.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet. And I have been really happy to see the positive reviews on this latest book, because like I said, humor is subjective. I think romance is even subjective. Some things appeal to some people and not others. And so I wasn't positive how it was going to hit with readers. So it's been really nice to see at least that the readers who've read it so far have really enjoyed it for the most part.
I think one of the things that attracts me to your books, and that you kind of just alluded to when you're talking about the young adult, is your characters are so multidimensional, and they have so many things going on between family, and you got we have limbo at one point in one of the other books, but you have school, and you have so many things that they're trying to balance. You give them fully formed lives. Some of the times I think I've read books where it's they go to school and they come home and there's nothing in between.
Yeah, and I think especially with the trilogy, the Forget Tomorrow trilogy, like I was with those characters for so long over the span of 3 books that like, you know, I really felt very close to them by the end. And I was really sad to say goodbye to them because, and you know, they still continue to live on in books, but I'm just not writing their stories right now. And, but yeah, like they really came to life to me as characters. I mean, they always do in all of my books, but I think that when you spend 3 books with the same characters, they hold like a special, different place in your heart.
Oh. I was going to say, Lady Gizmo's. We have a question from Lady Gizmo. I wanted to make sure I saw. If anyone else has any questions, please ask. Pintip, do you find yourself reminding yourself of the age bracket when writing young adult so as to not mature the characters into adult rom too quickly in your stories? That's a great question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
So I think it says, do you find yourself, or you have to remind yourself of the age bracket when you're writing young adult so that you don't make the characters too mature? So I'm paraphrasing.
Okay. Do I have to remind myself? I don't think so, because I think that when I'm in the character's head and writing their voice, I just, you know, being a teenager is part of who they are. And so I don't find that I have to be like, uh-oh, you know, that content is too racy. That's only happened to me with 1 book. That was when I wrote The Darkest Lie. And I had been reading some amazing, really dark adult thrillers. And adult thrillers can get really dark. And I got a little too dark with that book that I remember my agent was like, you know what, let's just pull this back a tiny bit because this is young adult. And so that was the only time that I kind of went too far into like the darkness. But with the other books, no, not really. It's just that when I'm into that voice, I'm into that character, like it's a teen character trying to discover who they are. And so, and my books are generally like, I don't really like the word clean. You know, like clean YA is kind of a term that's batted around. I don't really like that because it implies the opposite of, oh, well, then these are the dirty ones, which is not the case at all. But just in terms of like sexual content, I guess, that and violence as well, I tend to stay more on the PG side. And you know, and I think that like YA is such an amazing genre is that there are rooms for like so many stories. And have read tons of really great books that explore sex, the act of sex in like a really nuanced, you know, complicated, wonderful, subtle way. It's just that I haven't done that in my books. At the same time though, like I think I got like a really nice compliment from my friend Tracy Levesey. Do you know?
I love her books. Yeah,
I love her books. Her book, Like Lovers Do, just came out, and I adored that book. It was so, you know, so steamy, and like the characters were so lovable, and I just fell in love with those books. But anyhow, she read Dating Makes Perfect, and she was texting me, and she was like, you know, for the life of me, I don't get it because like all they do is kiss, but there's so much like. There's so much buildup is that I just have all of the same feels and all of the same, like, you know, heartache and like romance and tension as I do with an adult book. And she's like, I don't get it because they just kiss. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was like so nice. And it was like such a nice reminder that like, you know, just because, you know, a content might be more PG in the sense that like in my books, my characters mostly just kiss. It can still have all those things that you love about an adult romance novel. And I think that all, you know, you mentioned To All the Boys I've Loved Before, like all you have to do is look at the popularity of that movie and see that like everybody loves that movie and the book. I love the books as well. You know, whether you're a teen or an adult. And so to me, it's not like when I write for teens, when I write teen books, I'm writing for teens, but I also feel like they have tremendous crossover appeal and that adults would love them as well. Because I'm an adult and I love YA books. So.
I'm not a teenager and I'm reading your books.
Yeah.
I really do. When I first started my YouTube channel, I was talking predominantly about young adult romance novels. That was actually when I started making videos. You know, I love My Life Next Door, Huntley Fitzpatrick. I love that one. You know, Lauren Miracle, I fell in love with her books. I was trying to figure it out. So I went through a period on my Instagram with Tracy Livesay where I think I was tagging her like every other day because I'd had her book Along Came Love, and I just kept like including it in every single photo.
I'm sure she greatly appreciates that.
I was going to say that there's a very good chance she does know who I am just because like I kept tagging her persistently.
She's such a good writer. She's such a good writer. I love her books.
Ooh, we have another question from Kayla. Do you ever read over what you've written and feel like it's childish? When I reread stuff I wrote, I feel like it sounds like a nine-year-old wrote it.
I don't. I think that sometimes because I'm so much writing the voice that's natural to me, sometimes I worry that I'm skewing too old. So it's kind of the other way around. And a lot of times my editor will be like, oh, they would never use this word. They would never use this word. You know, this dialogue is too formal for a teen. And so I think that if I skew one way or the other, I think I do skew older.
That's my personal concern. Again, I haven't published anything, but one of the books that I technically quote unquote finished was a young adult type. Yeah, it was an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice because I'm a Jane Austen lover at heart. So I was reading it, I'd be editing it and going like, I'm pretty sure that was one of my GRE terms that I remember. It was like, be used. So I'm like, I'm gonna leave that in there for the time being. But I think that's my biggest concern too. I'm like, okay, because again, I'm earning my PhD in communications. I'm like, would they know what the word hermeneutic is?
No, I don't think so. But I had this thought the other day because it's like, as an adult, you know, the words that are supposed to be hard are actually just very normal, everyday words. And so I wonder, like, and I haven't done this yet, but I'm like, you know, I remember the verbal SATs were always so hard for me. Like those words, you know, I remember I had those like vocabulary flashcards and I had no idea what this terminology was. And I'm like, I bet if I went and took the SATs today, I could probably, like, it would all be super easy just because they're words that we've incorporated into our vocabulary over the years. And then we forget that maybe teens don't know it yet.
Yep.
At the same time, books are a great way to teach teens vocabulary through context. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It just shouldn't be a word that pulls you. You don't want to have the reader be pulled out of the reading experience where it feels like it doesn't belong there or it trips you up. But I think that, like, you know, so long as it's flowing with the story, and it should be there, I think it's fine. Oh, no, I don't know what your word means.
Oh no, I was just kidding around because I mean, again, I'm you know, days on end now. I've been working from like 8 a.m. to like 8 p.m. I'm not even kidding. Like sitting at my desk doing dissertation lit reviews. I mean, I've been reading the theoretical frameworks for things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, the encoding, decoding, and signifiers. It's just it ends up being like, and my eyes are glazing over now.
Well, I could see how it would be difficult to transition from dissertation writing to fiction writing. It's really two entirely different things.
I haven't been doing anything creative in regards to writing with, you know, the dissertation has been my focus. You know, I just want to, you know, I want this to be my final semester. I want to get it done. And, you know, I have this list of things to do when I finally finish. And it's like, enjoy writing, like do these things, like read this book. I'm like, please get done just because I have this list of things that I'm looking forward to.
So much to look forward to.
One of the questions, so between Lady Griffin and Kayla, I have a question that kind of dovetails off of this. So my question has to do with choosing the age of your characters, because you have characters that you will actually say in text are 17. And so I'm just kind of curious how you choose the ages, or, you know, because in my head, again, I've legitimately studied the breakdowns, you know, even within the young adult. In my head, there's sort of a breakdown between 13 to 15 and then 16 to 18. And so I'm kind of curious how you figure that out as well.
Well, I think most of my characters tend to be on the older end. So they're usually 17 or 18. I think that Jessa and Olivia were 16 in their books, but that was more just because 10 years had passed and they were 6-year-olds in the first book. So that was kind of dictated to me. Yeah, but I think that like my default is to have them kind of be on the older end of teens. So they're usually 17 or 18. I don't think I have, you're correct. I think 13 to 15 occupies a completely different kind of journey. Like they're dealing with completely different kind of things. So I don't have any protagonists that young, actually.
Oh no, it's so funny. You know, people will mention things and like I legitimately like will have thought them all the way through. Like I even have, I should probably like actually do something with these notes. I was actually writing down different age brackets, like for this grade, what they have to face and like what their challenges with this one. I'm like, okay, this is the grade when they get their driver's license. This is the grade when they're doing the SATs. Like this is this is that. And so I again, even within my breakdown, I'm going, there's differences between like a 16-year-old who's a sophomore in high school versus, you know, the 18-year-old who's a senior in high school. You know, they even between those age groups, you have different challenges that they're facing.
And I think too that kids are a lot older than some adults imagine them to be, because I feel like I've read middle grade novels with protagonists that are, you know, 10 or 11 or 12, and at the time when my children are that age. And so I see them, I see their friends, and I'm just like, wow, they act way older than some of the characters in these books. And I think it's because it's hard to remember like how old anybody is at that age. And if you don't happen to be in a situation where you're around kids that age, it can be hard. You know, it's us imagining or us remembering.
Oh no, it's so funny. Yeah, because I have a friend and she mentioned, oh, he went, you know, he said he misses going to get lattes with his friends. I'm going, he said, what? You know, I'm going, and I think he's like 13 or 14. And I'm going, he misses going to get lattes? I like, that's not what I pictured a 14-year-old boy missing.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And it's just so funny because, you know, when I'm writing a contemporary book, I'm like, do they still have textbooks? I don't know if they have textbooks. Let me research this. And so it's just like just very basic things where, you know, that's so different from our own childhood. But luckily I have kids who I can ask. So.
I was going to say, you can get the first-hand experience going, hey, what did you do in school today? What are your friends, what social media platform are your friends using this week? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like,
and like
girl.
And they're still like a tiny bit younger than the characters that I write about, but it's still giving me like a really big glimpse of a sneak peek. But I always love listening to my daughter talk to her friends, and they're always, and sometimes they'll hang out with me, and then my daughter's like, "Mom, go away." But I'm like, this is so much fun. I love listening to you guys talk.
You're like, no, I want to hang out. I want to watch this movie with you. That's so adorable. I mean, one of the things we've been talking about, you know, off camera was capturing the young adult experience as an adult and how you approach writing a young adult scene versus an adult scene. So I wanted to make sure that we could get back and touch on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this goes, and I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but like, I think I said earlier that there are a lot of similarities between adult romance and young adult romance. I think the biggest difference, and you know, we can get at this little thing or that little thing, is the lens in which you write like a romance or a sex scene. And I think that like with the adult experience, the adult romance is oftentimes it's grounded in experience. And oftentimes like these scenes are really sexy. I mean, their purpose is to arouse. And with young adult romance, you're not trying to do that at all. So the purpose is more like, you know, an exploration, an experimentation. Like a lot of times there's a lot of firsts, you know, first kisses, first dates. And even if you have a teen who has experience with that, it might be their first time falling in love. So there's a lot of firsts, but like it's more, for me at least, the kissing scenes, because I don't have romance scenes. Shout out to my friend Vanessa. I don't know if she's here, but she calls them the kissy bits. And I always love using that term the kissy bits, or like how we refer to like the kissing scenes. But
that's a cute. I want to use that phrase now. That's a really cute phrase.
I think it's adorable. But when you're writing that, it's less about like, it's more about what that character is going through and how having this romance affects their development or their realization of who they are as a person. And so because of that, you know, these scenes are written differently. And I've read a whole lot of adult romances, let me tell you. And so I am pretty, as I'm writing, I'm pretty aware of what those differences are. And so, like, for example, there's less of an emphasis on like the move, like the physical body, like what the body is doing, what body parts are doing. And so that instead it might be questions that the person is having, like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Did I forget to brush my teeth? Like that kind of thing. Or it might be just like, you know, the kiss, like sparking like random memories, because like their minds are like so chaotic and like all over the place during a kiss. Or it might be just like a really intense awareness of the kiss, like how is it going? You know, is he or she enjoying this? Like, you know, does he think I'm doing this right? And so I actually had just marked a couple of passages from Dating Makes Perfect, if you're interested in me sharing.
While you find it, I was just going to say, you totally reminded me. I have the books up there. I think they're out of sight, but you just reminded me of Maggie Steve Otter. She's brilliant at doing that. You know, oh, we're going to like lean in and describing every single lead up to the kiss. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Okay, so these are short, so I don't know. I know people don't want to sit here and listen to me read, but just to kind of give an example of, you know, I don't think you would find this in an adult romance. I mean, you do. I mean, I know that there's this wide range and, you know, exceptions to everything, but in general, you wouldn't. Okay. The moment that my lips touch his, I panic. What am I doing? How am I the aggressor here? I've kissed exactly nobody in my life, and he's tongue wrestled with how many? 20? What if he thinks I suck? Or worse yet, don't suck? Are you supposed to do that in a first kiss? How the hell would I know? So there's an example of like lots of questions. Like she's having her first kiss and she cannot turn her brain off because she
just have like a hashtag tongue wrestling. Like that needs to be a thing now. I don't think I've ever heard anyone call it tongue wrestling before.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize it was something new that
I was sitting there laughed. I was like, you're looking up like, what's funny? I was like, no, that was I don't know, maybe I'm just out of it, but like I don't think I've ever heard anyone call French kissing tongue wrestling. That's amazing. I love that.
So anyhow, so in this scene they go through a few tries before they get it right. And so this is just later on in the scene where he's finally getting it right. Okay. So his hands glide over my shoulders, caressing my back. But he doesn't need to urge me closer. I move in of my own volition. More. I want more. More kissing, more Matt. More of his orange Tic Tac taste. We used to gobble them by the handfuls when we were kids. I can't believe he still eats them. It's been years since I've tasted one. Until now. And so here, like, you know, you can see there's the physical body moving there, because you have the hands gliding over the shoulders, caressing my back, pulling her close. But instead of continuing with what the bodies are doing, it's more like in her mind, she's thinking about the kiss, but she's also, it kind of like leads to other things, like memories that she has of him as a kid. And then, you know, it's been years since I've tasted one until now. So then she comes right back to the kiss. So it's not like she's going off on these super long tangents about, you know, what they did as kids, these orange Tic Tacs, whatever, but it's still like very indicative of, I think like a young adult kiss scene, that it's not so much about, you know, then he slides his hand up my shirt and then he does this and then he does that, which I love. Don't get me wrong. This is not, I mean, those are scenes that I love reading as a reader, but just in young adult books, like that's not the purpose. Like the purpose is more to the kissing and the romance is more another way for the character to explore who she is and to help her figure out how to get there, how to be the person that she wants to be.
I love everything you just said. And those examples, I mean, again, like praise to you, like you're such a good writer. You know, the second example, I mean, that's something to me that, again, I've taken, I don't even know how many writing classes at this point in my life, but that's one of those, like they would use that as an example of good writing because you have, you know, what he tastes like, you have the, you know, you have all the different elements, you know, you have the different senses, you're like, you have the thought process, and everything there was just really well tied together. And again, like it had that young adult voice, like, again, masterclass, you got to be doing one of those.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I love when you even said like the Tic Tac. I don't think you got me going through my brain now, like reliving like different kisses that I've read. And I mean, one of the go-tos is, you know, the chapstick, the lipstick, like one of those. And so I don't think I've actually ever read anyone say like, you know, Tic Tac. I think maybe once I got gum, but I don't think it was like, it was just, you know, she's always chewing bubble gum or something. But no, I think she's the first person I ever say Tic Tac.
Yeah. So I get the tongue wrestling prize. I get the Tic Tac prize.
Well, even the orange Tic Tac, the specificity, not just Tic Tac, the orange Tic Tac. So now I want one too.
I love orange Tic Tacs. I love them as a kid, and I still love them now. I don't eat them very much now, but I used to.
I was going to say, if and when, you know, quarantine is eventually over and the world is semi back to normal and there isn't a Polycon or something, I'm going to have to buy you a giant thing from Amazon of like the bulk orange Tic Tac.
Oh yes, it will be wonderful to have another Polycon. Well, we were supposed to have an interview there, if you remember.
Yeah, no, I posted, I did like the little 30 minutes, you know, before we go live. And I think I even mentioned that because like we were, you know, going back and forth, like we've been meaning to have an interview for the longest time.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad we finally got to do it.
Oh no, I'm so honored to get to talk to you. I mean, again, I'm sure, you know, I don't want to fangirl at you, but you're so impressive. And, you know, I feel like I'm missing out because I haven't read this book yet. I'm going, oh, the passages are so brilliantly written. I need to go read it.
Well, thank you. I hope it lives up to your expectations, Dan. It's always a lot of pressure.
I mean, I've got to say, because I've been seeing the book cover all over the place, and obviously even before it came out, I saw the book cover. I mean, this has got to be one of my favorites. You know, again, there's now this shift to doing illustrated covers, and you know, they are what they are. When I see yours, I'm going, oh, this is what you want a young adult romance cover to be like.
Yeah, we'll share it again. It's a water. So I think that. Brie Archer was the one who did this cover. Shout out to her. She is so amazing and brilliant. But I think that this was a stock photo that she painted over. But and also shout out to my publisher. They worked really hard to make sure that it looks like a Thai girl on the cover versus like a Chinese girl or a Korean girl or a Japanese girl. And so they were like, you know, does this look like a Thai girl to you? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like her skin color, her hair, you know, her eyes, everything. So I think they did a brilliant job. I couldn't be any happier. And it means everything to me to see a Thai girl, a beautiful Thai girl on a cover like this. I had Girl on the Verge, which is also, it's also a Thai girl book. This is about a Thai American girl who's caught between two cultural worlds, struggling to find her identity and what happens when a stalker comes to try to steal her. That
might have been a little darker book she was alluding to before.
Well, exactly, yes. When Angela was saying darker stuff, this was a little darker. And this is a beautiful cover too, don't get me wrong, but it's a different, you know, I just love and I love that cover, but I just love like the fun, lighthearted vibe of this. And I never liked faces on covers. Like I would say before, oh, I don't want a face on a cover. Until I got this one, and I love her face, even though it's partly covered.
Why got me thinking? I'm going, yeah, you really don't usually have faces on your covers.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't know. I don't know if it's because of I just didn't, but I did say, because when you were at the publisher, you always filled a little form saying what you prefer, and I always said I don't like faces. But now I do.
I mean, I love that. Like, I love everything about that book cover. Again, I've really gotten into using Canva and doing, graphics over the last like year and a half. And, I love the font. I even love like the little heart over the eye, like the little details just add so much to that cover.
It's so cute. Like the font is so cute.
Even having like the little dashes there makes like everything about it just ties so perfectly.
Yeah, I think this is, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say things like this. I think this is my favorite book cover. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I love all my book covers. Love them, love them. I've been really lucky, but this one just means a lot to me. Just the Thai girl and just how beautiful it is.
See, if I were you, I would have it blown up, framed, and put that in my office. Like, yeah, I did that.
Sure. I haven't done that with any of my books yet, but I've always meant to. It's just a project. You never have time to do those projects, but I would love to have that at some point.
You're like, that's going to get added to the everlast, like the never-ending to-do list.
The never-ending to-do list, but I hope I do that sometime. At the same time, I clean my office. And get some book covers blown up and put up.
I mean, but the thing is, when you're doing that, you're not writing your next young adult book.
Exactly.
And then you get people like me who need to read them.
Oh, you're so sweet. This is so nice.
Oh no, I'm so impressed with you and everything you've accomplished. I mean, I'm so honored that I get to talk with you tonight.
Well, I'm honored too. Thank you for making this such a fun conversation. Like, I really love talking to you. This was so great.
Oh, I mean, I'm so appreciative of you. I mean, I was going to say, like, I didn't even realize, like, we hit 8:00. Like, I always try and have something like fun or, something like kind of, lighthearted to either end the night or do something. And so I kind of have some this or that questions. So I have different categories. Would you like writing either or questions, or would you like men of romance either or questions?
Ooh, are the men of romance specific characters?
I think they're tropes and archetypes.
Okay, I can do tropes, but like I'm really bad at names. So
oh no,
like, whenever we do a game where it's like a specific character, a specific movie star, I'm always like, oh, I forget who that is.
No, so what I did was I have like the different ones, so like have bodyguards. So I'm going to switch it up, and then we're going to like draw some random ones. So. Right. So would you rather read? So like, would you rather read like the sexy CEO or the Highlander?
Sexy CEO.
Would you rather read the Strong and Silent or the Family Man?
Strong and Silent.
You're just like you're not even like hesitating.
I know what I like, and like I do like the Strong and Silent type. And I remember there was this book that I loved, and I gave it to my sister, and she was like, but the hero doesn't talk. And I'm like, I know, but it's sexy. And she's like, but he doesn't say anything. And I'm like, because it's sexy.
You just reminded me of the Wall of Winnipeg and Me, where the character, this isn't spoiler, but she gives him a Christmas present, and like the description is just him looking at her. Like he doesn't even say anything. And I'm like, oh, you're so great, Ada. And I'm like, he didn't actually say anything. He's just looking at her. I love you.
I'm all about that. I haven't written one yet because I think it takes a lot of talent to be able to do such a charismatic hero who doesn't say much. But maybe one of these days. I
have faith in you. I think you could do it.
I definitely love it. I think it would be hard to write.
Would you rather read a sexy shifter or the Viking?
Whew. That's a hard one because neither of those are my go-to, but probably the sexy shifter.
Ooh, okay. I like how I pull these two at the same time. I must have like had the A's going. So would you rather read the anti-hero or the alpha hero?
Alpha hero, because I think they're sexier, but anti-heroes are really interesting. Like they're really fascinating. Like I think they're fascinating, but like I think probably 7 times out of 10, I would probably go for alpha. But if I was in the mood for like something really like, cerebral, like more thinking, I would go for the anti-hero because I do find them endlessly fascinating.
I was going to say, if they're well done, that you're going to be engrossed in that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like how this one, I don't know how you're going to compare these two. So we have the commitment phobic or a vampire. Which one would you rather read?
Vampire, because a lot of heroes in romance novels are commitment phobic, and it gets on my nerves sometimes. It's like, come on, really?
And like, especially when there's no reason for it. That's when when my eyebrow goes up a little.
And that's not to say I've read plenty of romances with amazing heroes or commitment phobic. So this is just, gross generalizations. But in general, I think I would go with the vampire.
Well, for this one, would you rather read The Athlete or The Outlaw?
Athlete.
That might have been the first one you really had to think about.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking about all the copious numbers of athletes books that I've read. I'm like, yeah, I don't, and it's funny because I don't really watch sports in real life at all. But they make good romance heroes.
I was going to say that they do. I mean, yeah, I was going to say Mariana's a Pot. I don't mispronounce, but she's had quite a few sports romances. Claire Contreras, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Apparently, I had the occupations right in order. Would you rather read a firefighter or a doctor?
I guess firefighter. I'm thinking about that one too. I don't read about I don't feel like doctor is that popular profession. Have you read a lot of doctor romances? I know that there are actually medical romances, and I've read a few of those. But just as a doctor in I don't know.
I mean, I've read some weird ones where I'm like, this doesn't really work out. Where there was one where he was a multimillionaire and he's a doctor. I'm going, or he was a primary care physician in a small town, but he was a multimillionaire. I'm going, how did he get from small town doctor to there? I was like, I missed a step in between.
I'm thinking now. There's a Kristen Higgins one where he's a doctor in a small town.
That's not the one I'm talking about. I love her book. She's a very talented writer. That's not the one I was thinking of.
Very, very.
I was thinking it was around an erotica one. I was like, I don't know if you just wanted him to be a doctor. Okay. Anywho, would you rather read The Rock Star or The Cowboy?
Rock Star.
Again, with
another easy one for me.
I was going to say that was a very easy one. Ooh, sometimes these go together. We have The Duke or The Rogue.
The Rogue.
You really do know your reading preferences.
I do. And that is not to say that I don't like the other one, but then I do have I like what I like.
You saw me mix these up, but they must have wanted to be together. So we have, would you rather read The Secret Millionaire or The Secret Royal?
Millionaire.
Interesting.
Yeah. Why are they secret though?
Well, there's always I see these a lot on the Hallmark adaptations where, we're gonna, I'm escaping my royal duties. We meet in the street and you don't know who I am. So I get to live out the life of the normal person without my royal duties. Right. And then the secret millionaire of, I actually own the company you're working for.
Yes, I love those actually.
I may or may not have actually had one that I started writing and abandoned, but I do want to finish it. So I do like those. And then the final one is the brooding hero or the beta hero.
Brooding.
You really do know your preferences. I want the brooding.
And I feel like some of my heroes are beta heroes. So no, I mean I love beta heroes too, but I just like the brooding heroes to read. I think reading and writing are also two different things, and I haven't actually really thought about that. But it's kind of an interesting. That would be an interesting conversation. Why do you write what you write, and why do you read what you read? Not necessarily.
I think that would be really fascinating. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I like your characters. Again, you write young adults, so I can't be like, they're the book boyfriends. I'm like, I appreciate these characteristics because I like dating.
I totally think that they're book boyfriends.
I'm in my 20s. I don't think I can get away with calling a high school character, book boyfriend.
So my friend was like, I feel really dirty. I think she was talking about Ryder in Seize Today, and she was like, I really, really like this boy, and he is way too young for me.
That was what I'm like. That's why I was gonna say, like, I love the beta hero characteristics, and I think that's probably why I really enjoy some of your stories in the male characters, because you do have those. So like that might be why I love your heroes.
Well, and it's funny because I spoke at my high school a few years ago. I got a distinguished alumni award, and so I'm watching these high school seniors walking down, and I'm like, they look like babies. And I'm like, when I write these heroes, I don't imagine them in my head to look like a baby.
I always think of like the CW, how they cast people who are older in their high school. Like that's what I end up thinking.
That's what I imagine too. And then like a lot of these guys were, really buff, like really athletic, strong, muscular, but their face, they looked like a baby. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what I was imagining when I wrote my books. I'm imagining the people in the TV shows.
You're like, what? I mean, even now I feel like I have to click on, like, I don't even know what's on the CW. I was about to say 90210, and that's been over for a while.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? They would have the older people there. Yeah. The things we think about. But I mean, you answered all my questions. If anyone wants to chime in and have any other questions for Pintip and her writing or anything, I mean, now is your chance. Hi. Yes. Even Max was like, yeah, what's going on over there? But no, I mean, I'm so honored I got to chat with you tonight, and you took the time out of your day to speak with me. I mean, I've been looking forward to chatting with you, because again, this has been in the works for the longest time.
It really has. And we almost made it to a Polycon. So close. I mean, with the right, obviously, but yeah, it was so close. So, I'm glad we had a chance to do this.
Oh no, I mean, I was looking forward to a Polycon, and KissCon was also right around the bend. So because I feel like all the conventions sort of take place all at once. So I was supposed to go to. I had 3 that I was supposed to go to. It was a Polycon, KissCon, and then I live in DC, so Malice Domestic was right, super close for mysteries.
We live in the same area.
You're in Virginia, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I live in Maryland.
Oh, Maryland.
So, but right outside DC.
It's weird that I kind of knew that when I said that. I just remember because I was a part of the local RWA chapter for a little while. I think someone had mentioned you at some point, and I was like, oh, I didn't know she was nearby. And I got really excited. Again, trying not to fangirl at you too hard.
Cool. Well, I mean, once everything goes back to normal, maybe we can find a way to meet up in person. That would be really fun.
And Max, I'm like, I promise I won't fangirl too hard. Like, I won't fangirl too hard and embarrass you, little baby. You're so sweet. I am so honored that I got to chat with you tonight. And I mean, I'm looking forward to the next thing you write. Like, you haven't finished. You're not, but I'm like, when she writes this, I'm going to be there and pre-ordering and everything. I'll be ready to read it. And I'm so looking forward to my physical copy of your book arriving. I can't wait to read it, because it sounds so amazing and wonderful. And rom-coms during this time period are perfect. They're just the best thing ever. So I think you had the book come out at the right time, and people are appreciating you for that.
Oh, good, because Malice came out in February. And for those who don't know, it's about a girl who finds out that 10 years from now, a boy in her class invents a virus that wipes out half the world. And she has to decide whether she can take his still innocent life today to save millions in the future. That came out in February 4th. And then the pandemic, well, it had already been happening, like in China.
Yeah.
But it came to the US very shortly after that. And I was like, I wrote this book 2 years ago where I had no idea that we would be in the situation that we are in. And so to me, that was kind of like, this is the worst time for this book to come out. So it's nice to hear you say that one of my books is coming out at a good time.
Well, so, I mean, again, I was doing research preparing for the interview, and I was going through some of the Goodreads reviews, and someone said, I read this during quarantine. It was more of a recent review, and she's like, I read this at the wrong time. It's a brilliant book, but I should not have read this at this time. Like the way the girl said it, I was like, oh, the poor thing. Because it's true. Again, we have some darker stories with you. I mean, again, I give you credit for writing across the board, but yeah, that I understand why that one might give a little bit of hesitation for you.
Right. And even though like it mostly takes place in the present, where the virus is 10 years in the future, And there's a lot of like really funny and really swoony moments. You can't get around the premise, which is a virus takes out half the world. And it's like, really, I promise I didn't know this was going to happen when I wrote this book.
I mean, has that made it uncomfortable for you to talk about it or promote it at all?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like I kind of dropped the ball after the book came out. I dropped the ball in promoting it. And part of that was just because, we were in quarantine and so many, there's so much like with the kids being out of school and like trying to do homeschooling. And so it was so chaotic already, so that it was hard to think about books and promotion. But at the same time, like I also didn't know how to talk about this book. And I didn't know how to be like, I know there's a virus outside, but I promise this book is really still swoony and fun. Like I consider, out of all of my books, like my most epic love story is in Malice. And I love that book. I love the characters. One of my favorite heroes is in Malice. His name, it's a Thai boy named Bandit. And in Thai, it's Bandit. But in, America, you would call him Bandit. And I thought that was adorable. He has blue hair. And he's just so, in my opinion, so cute and swoony. And so, like, there's so much I love about that book, but it's just hard to get around, like, this virus. Even though the book isn't really about that. It's about what she does in the present and, the decisions she has to make in the present of whether she's willing to kill this innocent boy when he hasn't invented the virus yet. But it's still kind of like in the backdrop,
Oh no, the premise, even those little nuggets sometimes. But I mean, I read that. I think when it first came out, I took that book on like a field trip throughout DC. I mean, I think I took that book had its own little like photography session with me. I had this on that book. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep taking pictures in every single angle because it's a beautiful cover. But I mean, I hope other people will find it when they can during quarantine or after. It will come back around, get like a second release or so.
I hope so, because it's the thing. I don't blame people either, because I'm like, I want to read a rom-com like right now. I don't want to read a dystopian, because even if it's not exactly our situation, there's too much triggering stuff.
I don't know what's going on with my Netflix. They're like, hey, you want to watch Hannibal? I'm like, no, I want to watch The Office again. Thank you very much. I was like, why are you recommending me this? Stop it.
Although, my husband rewatched 28 Days Later and like Contagion. So he was rewatching stuff when, we first started in quarantine. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like, I don't know. I just thought it would be interesting. I was like, okay, to each their own, right?
You're like, and this is where the romance reading community comes together, because we're like, we're going to read our romance novels now. We've been preparing for this.
More than ever, I think romance novels are vitally important right now.
Again, I've been working on my dissertation for, as I'm like doing the math, I'm like at least 4 years now, because I started my research in 2016. And so it's so funny, like things I wrote in 2016, where I'm like, yes, see, I wrote this. It's true. People are now saying this.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then I'm like, but I didn't publish this, and people are going to think I wrote this after the fact, but I still wrote it.
That is true.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I am so honored that I got to talk with you tonight. Like, thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. I'm so appreciative of you. And I'm in awe of your accomplishments. And I mean, now those passages, again, so well written. I need to go read this book. I hope everyone else adds this to their Goodreads account and their to be read lists, adds that to their next Amazon book haul.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. This was so much fun.
My dog, he's burying a bone in my books over there.
Oh, really?
Apparently, I don't know if you heard the little crash. He's like,
no, I didn't.
Pile just sort of went down, and the bone is now behind the book. So the little dog is in need of some love and attention. But I am so appreciative of you. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me tonight. And everyone, hopefully you will add her books to your to be read list, and please check out her latest releases. And if you're not following Pintip on Twitter and Instagram, you should. This way, when she does have a new release come out, you will be the first to know.
Yay! Well, thanks so much for having me. Like I said, this was actually a ton of fun. So.
Oh, You are welcome back anytime. Another theme night conversation. We have another publication. Like anything you want, I am here for you. I am.
Okay.
I am just. It's like bow down, like you're the queen.
Oh, thank you. I will definitely keep that in mind. And I'm glad we finally got to meet in person after, talking online for so long. So
I know.
Well, I guess we're not in person. I guess we're still over video, but still.
I said that to my dad on the phone today. I'm like, oh, and I'll talk to you later in person. I'm like, I left a message for him. I was like, oh, I'll talk to you in person. I was like, not in person, on the phone, but like, you know what I mean, live.
Right.
I literally said the exact same thing like 2 hours ago.
It feels like it's in person because this is the closest we get to being in person these days.
My only contact is literally like my dog. So I'm pretty sure this is my social skills right now. Like I'm gonna be very entertaining when I'm back in the world eventually. Like, oh, like what's going on over there? I don't know how to talk to people now, unless they're But thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who joined us tonight. I mean, hopefully, I hope you learned something, enjoy what these amazing comments, her insights, and hopefully, if you're not reading her book, you will get a copy soon.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.